tonight in many ways is really focused on the story. And we've done a lot of setup in the last few weeks. We've explained who people are. We've explained some of the logic of the way the calendars work. We've explained all sorts of things in the background. So now, as we come into the final week, the kind of the resurrection week, here we go. We're just going to remind ourselves of where we got to last time. We're really going to. It's really storytelling tonight. So yeah, hope it all makes sense. So at the end of last time, we'd left Jesus just being. I thought it's just worth reviewing. Joseph had secured the body from Pilate, as you remember. And actually, as we read about it, we read that there are 4 women who actually go and identify the tomb, and they do so in slightly different ways. But kind of, I've shown 2 of them outside, 2 of them in, and in the integrated text, as I say, fitting the 3 together, 3 Gospels together, Matthew, Mark, and Luke here. So Mary Magdalene was there, so not surprised, and the other Mary here is the mother of James and Joseph, as it refers to. And they're sitting opposite the tomb. So quickly going back, I've got them. I think it's... Oh, hang on. Let's go back. No. Oh, no, hang on. Sorry. I must learn how... It's this one, is it? I didn't want to do that. What am I trying? I was going to... There we go. Yeah, I was using my little red pointer. You can see just kind of highlighting over here. So we got Mary Magdalene, we got Mary, the mother of James and Joseph. They're sitting opposite, and they saw where, I've underlined the where, they saw where he was laid. And the other women, so the other is in black because it's in a couple of the Gospels, the other women, green because it's in Luke, who'd come with him out of Galilee. So that is at least, as we've thought, Susanna and Joanna. There are other potential ones, but those seem to be the best kind of simple fit. And in trying to not make the story too complicated, we'll just assume those 2. He'd come out of Galilee and followed after him, and they saw the tomb, so they saw the where and how his body was laid, which implies that they have gone in closer. So Mary Magdalene and the other Mary are sitting opposite, so they see the where. The other women who are probably, remember, they're quite powerful, wealthy women, these women from Galilee. They see not only the tomb, but how the body was laid. And so then the he, which is Joseph, rolled a great stone against the door of the tomb. So here we go. Dun, dun, dun. Look at my nice animations. Sorry, I've wasted an awful lot of time doing these animations. So I hope you enjoy them. In fact, what I'll do is I'll go, let's go to the full screen. There we go. So you can see them that way. It's, of course, very possible that because Joanna, over here, is it it's this one? Oh, no, I've done it. I'm trying to... Oh, right. Okay. There we go. I've got to... I'm working out what the combination is to get the little red... So as Joanna here, of course, remember her husband is Chusa. You can't see Chusa at the moment because I'm in the way, but I can go to, there we go, so you can see him now. Chusa down here in the bottom corner. It's very possible, of course, that she would know Joseph, as we saw. It looks like Joseph, he's part of the Sanhedrin. If he is part of the Judean family, as we reconstructed that family tree, then we know that family is the 3rd wealthiest in Jerusalem. Chusa is like the finance minister for a whole nation. So these are very powerful, wealthy people. So Joanna may well have actually known Joseph, which would give her some confidence in approaching the tomb and therefore to be able to look in and see what's kind of going on. So it's just interesting to see how what we know about the people, as we've been piecing it together, fits with the narrative as we fit the narrative together. That Mary, the mother of Clopas, who's much more normal, Jesus' aunt, Mary Magdalene, who may not be poor, but she's not got the connections quite in the same way. So the women then confer. So the women then return home. They returned. I put the word home in there, and they prepared spices and ointments on the Sabbath. Spices and ointments, and on the Sabbath they rested according to the commandment. So, kind of putting the story together. After sunset, remember on the crucifixion day as we saw last week, actually there is a blood moon in 33 AD. So as a result, after sunset, the city is going to eat their Judean Passover meal under that blood red moon. But it's now a double Sabbath. It's a Sabbath because it's a Saturday, but it's also Passover, the day after Passover. So it's a double Sabbath. So as a result, travel restrictions are going to keep everybody in and around Jerusalem. Although Jesus has been based over in Bethany, and Bethany is more than a Sabbath day journey away. So actually everybody who's been there at the cross is going to have to reside for the night in Galilee. So let's just go back here. Let's go. There you go. So here we go. We'll see what home means for each of them. So Joanna and Susanna go back to the Hasmonean Palace. They would almost certainly have their apartments in that complex, as we saw that's how they came in last week into the story when Jesus is sent to Herod. Then, of course, there are relatives of Jesus, his kind of extended family. And Mary isn't one of those people, but I've put her with them because as we're going to see, she seems to connect up with Mary Clopas for the next couple of days. So she can't go all the way back to Bethany. It's too far, so she probably goes back to stay with the families of Jesus. And we remember Salome has already left. So she was there, but she took Jesus' mother at Jesus' request, along with John, who's her son. She's the mother of James and John, back to their business stroke home complex. We keep doing the reminders as we thought about. The tradition says that John's family own a property there. It would make it in the Tyropoean Valley, which is the valley where the basic tradesmen kind of kept their accommodation and their workshops. So in that lower part of the city. So John's house or business is down here. And that's where they all go for the night of Good Friday. Somewhere, you can't see him because I'm in the way, so let me just turn myself off. There we go. So let's just say, so you get a little bit of movement. There we go. There's Thomas. Thomas is roaming around somewhere outside Jerusalem, probably to the south. As we thought about that, he wouldn't go north because that's where the Romans took Jesus. He didn't go east because he's not in the east in Bethany when Jesus meets them in the resurrection. So he's likely to have gone south. Jerusalem's in the way. And of course, on the other side of Jerusalem is probably Peter. Is there somewhere. Let's just put myself back on the picture. Okay, so Peter's roaming around. He saw the pre-trial of Jesus, which is in the upper part of the city of Jerusalem. More in this kind of area around here. And he's gone out in shame after his denial of Jesus. And he disappears from the story for a day or two. He's probably out around this kind of side of Jerusalem somewhere. So we've kind of got a rough idea of where everybody is on the Friday night. Back in Bethany, the disciples are kind of collecting. Well, they have collected together since Jesus has been arrested. We know that there are kind of 8 of them who are still together at this stage. The ones that are missing, of course, Thomas, as we've said, who's roaming off somewhere. John and Peter, another 2, and then, of course, Judas has never come back. So there's 8 of them there in Bethany. So it's now Easter Saturday. So everybody has to rest on that day, except, of course, there's some activity that goes on. Because the chief priests then realise that actually they dropped the ball because they were focusing on the getting ready for their Passover meal, and they missed the fact that Joseph had secured the use of the body. It's just worth kind of flagging at this stage. It means for Joseph he couldn't participate in Passover because he's now had contact with the dead body. It's possible, of course, he just got servants to do it, but it would have disrupted his family celebrations. Of course, that was probably the reason why the chief priests and so on had avoided it. So they now realise that that's not their intention, and there are all sorts of issues with Jesus perhaps now becoming, even if it's his grave becomes a point of kind of a point of contention now that he's in a formal burial. They wanted him just to be discarded. It's very kind of pragmatic and practical. I was thinking when I was just before this, it's if you remember when, not that I want to kind of mess up the story with unpleasant things, but when Saddam Hussein, Osama bin Laden was captured, or he died in their capturing him, and they as they flew the body out, they kind of went with Islamic tradition to throw his body out into the sea. But that part of the reason they did that is because it's easier to get rid of a body in a place where people can't make it a place of pilgrimage. And the person then becomes the martyr, even though they hadn't got that word yet. So they realise those possibilities are there. So they head off, of course, to see Pilate, and we read then. So the next day, which is the day after the day of preparation, it's just worth noting. If you go back here, Matthew is using the preparation day. He's using it differently to the way he used it earlier in his account of Jesus' last Passover. There, you remember, he talked about the preparation day. And the first day of unleavened bread as being the same day, and Jesus eats Jesus actually eats the Passover on that night. Here he's talking about the day after preparation day, but it's now at least 2 days afterwards. So you can see he's using those two different calendars, even side by side, and it's not unusual. If you're just you're not thinking it's going to be a problem to people. Everybody understands there are variations on the way in which people are celebrating Passover. But just interesting to notice that. So the chief priests and the Pharisees, they gather together to Pilate. And they say, "So we remember that the deceiver said that while he was still alive, after 3 days I'll rise again. So command therefore," and you see 3 days. So it was yesterday that we crucified him. Today is number 2, so it'll be tomorrow. So while he was still alive, so therefore command that the tomb should be made secure until the 3rd day, lest perhaps his disciples come at night and steal him away, and tell the people he is risen from the dead. And then the last deception will be worse than the first. And Pilate said to them, and I think this is interesting. You see, we can read it 2 ways, and we have to try and understand it. He says, "You have a guard, go and make it secure as you can." Now, we've often heard that as being him saying, "Oh, okay, I'll send the guard for you." But actually, I don't think he is, because if you look at who the guard is accountable to in the days that are going to come, they are much more accountable to the chief priests, which tells you that it's the temple guard rather than the Roman guard. So I think actually, if you read this, Pilate is dismissing them. He's going, "You've got your own guard. You do it. You have a guard. Go and make it as secure as you can." Which doesn't mean to say, it means they've got from him, if you like, the permission. It's going to be sealed with Roman authority. But they went with the guard and made the tomb secure, sealing the stone. So it's not the Roman guard, which is why, as I said, that guard will answer to the high priests. So it's probably also true that it may well be on the Saturday. It's possible it was as early as the Friday after Jesus' betrayal, and he throws the money into the temple and so on. But this may actually be on the day in which Judas hangs himself, which would also explain the kind of variation in the 2 accounts of Judas's death. One that says he goes out and hangs himself, and Luke who says that his body, where he fell over and his body burst open. Because obviously if he has hung himself either on the Friday night or perhaps now on the Saturday, his body's probably going to stay there for a whole day, because of the fact that actually it's this double Sabbath at the moment. So it's left untouched, and so that you can understand how those two accounts kind of come together. So still here on Easter Saturday. There's not a huge amount of work supposed to be going on, but the temple guard go out and seal the tomb. So I put the Roman signature on there to say it's done with Roman authority. We don't know exactly if that meant that there was a seal on it. Well, there is a seal, but whether the seal was Roman authority or not. But they think, because we've talked to Pilate, that's the way we're going to understand it. But then actually we read then when the Sabbath was passed. So of course, remember that finishes in the evening now. So Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome bought spices they might go and anoint him. So we're going to unpack the comings and goings of this. So the evening ends. So up in that corner there, you can see it's about 5:30. It's about 5:20 when sunset happens around March, April time, around Jerusalem. So after sunset, now the women are free, one, to go and buy spices, because they've agreed together, they've conferred together that they're going to come and dress Jesus' body properly. Remember that Joseph of Arimathea has just supplied a huge amount of myrrh and aloes, but there are probably some more sophisticated smells that they want to use, and it is a kind of a woman's way of paying her respects, was in the dressing of the body for burial. So after sunset, I've put there Clopas, so we've got him on the screen as well. Clopas, let me just remove myself so you can read the words. Clopas, Mary, Salome, and Mary Magdalene go to the market as soon as it's open to buy spices. Once they've got the spices, Salome returns to the Jerusalem house she's come from. As I'm telling the story, as I say, I wanted to tell the story kind of relatively freely. I'm making use of things that we've looked at in previous weeks in terms of locations and so on. But the others have decided they need to go back to Bethany. Remember that there are 8 disciples there who are unsure of what's happened to Jesus at this stage. But it's after sunset, of course, and so it seems that Mary Magdalene is going to lead that and go and tell, and she's going to go with Mary, and Clopas, her husband's going to travel with them. Now, why do I say Clopas travels with them? He's not mentioned in any of the Gospels, but actually it makes sense. We do find him; he does pop up, as we're going to see later on during the morning. But it makes sense for him to be the kind of the chaperone who would take them through the dark, through all of the pilgrims who are probably there and well behaved, but it just wouldn't be appropriate for 2 women to be travelling on their own out to Bethany. So he chaperones them, the 2 Marys, to Bethany, and I'm going to assume it's probably some point during this evening that Peter reconnects with John. Remember, Peter and Andrew, James and John have been part of a business partnership in their fishing business. They both own boats. The evidence from archaeology tells us that Peter's house is the centre of a fishing cooperative, effectively. So James and John are part of that. They know each other pretty well. He knows they have property within the city. He went with John and followed him to see Jesus' trial. And so it's now during that evening that somehow or other he finds and reconnects with Peter.
What's that? All in the cupboard.
So, we can hear someone chatting just in case you, if you want to keep an eye, so as you don't get on the recordings. So it's Saturday evening. So we've gone through Friday evening. We thought about Saturday evening. There's been a little bit of movement Saturday evening. So kind of running through as we have it on the slide here. Oops, I've done it again. I've moved forwards before I wanted to. Hang on. So from here, right, there we go. Let's put myself back on. There we go. So round here we got the tomb with the temple guard. Unfortunately, in my little graphic there, the tomb's already open. Of course, it wouldn't be open at this stage. We've got Joanna and Susanna around the Hasmonean palace. We got Salome, John and Peter all around the little complex there. Thomas is still roaming around. And then over in the east, we've got Clopas, Mary and Mary, the 2 Marys, who have headed out to Bethany, where we've got Martha and Lazarus, and we've got the 8 other disciples. Now, the reason for saying all of that is because this is classically one of the things that people used to give up on. They say you can't resolve the 4 Gospels. You can't make them all fit together. They just don't fit. Because some say that they set out before dawn, some say it was still dark, some say after sunrise they set out. There's different lists of women that go. Sometimes Mary gets there first, sometimes it's a reference to the other women, and they don't seem to make sense. So that's why it's kind of been useful to kind of paint out the locations and paint out the people and see where they are. So as we now run through the story,